before we get into the nuts and bolts of how we can use Python for data science and machine learning, we want to talk about context behind what is data science and what is machine learning and things like that. So the prerequisite for this class, we assume that there is some basic Python knowledge. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. Python is one of the easiest language to learn, and it is the most popular language per se. If you do not have it, then I think we will help you with the basic setup. Then we can definitely get going into the complex and advanced topics in Python. We will have a Python development environment. If you already have it, fine. If not, then we will help you set this up in the class. Again, when it comes to learning anything, curiosity is what matters. So ask a lot of questions. As mentioned earlier, we will collect all the questions and then we will address them at the end of each session. So this is an intermediary class. So we will start with the foundational understanding at the lower level of how to get started to get into some medium to advanced topics in Python. Our teaching philosophy, so we emphasize on concepts and fundamentals. So we will talk about the APIs and modules involved in every one of these learning aspects. We want it to be interactive, keep the questions coming in, and we will do lots of hands-on, learn by doing, right? So the analogy is that if you want to learn to fly, you will definitely take some classes at the beginning, and that's not the end of it. You will have to practically do that, and similarly it applies to learning Python as well. Just listening to the videos and classes, reading is not good enough, so you will have to do hands-on, then we'll help you get started as well. And if you want to fly like a Blue Angels, it takes perfection, it takes a lot of dedications and hard work. So we hope that we continue to engage with you and help you with your learning. So the first thing that we want to talk about is like, what is data science? There are a lot of concepts around it. There are a lot of misconception as well. We will try to clear that. We'll try to demystify that as part of this program. I think once you have that understanding, it's very easy to build any machine learning data science experiments on top of that with the foundational knowledge. Data is the new oil. Data is the new gold. Now data is available in variety of forms, structured, unstructured, and semi-structured. In the past, we used to work only with the structured data set, which has some defined relationship between them. But when you look at the new world, there are a ton of data available in different forms. The data coming from social media, data coming from IoT devices, those are not structured, and there are many businesses that were recently found on leveraging data. For example, the world's biggest taxi company doesn't own any taxis, all they own is the data. And similarly, like the world's biggest hotel industry business, they do not own any hotel brick and mortar premises, but all they own is the data. So data is the new oil, and the foundational things that we will learn from this course will help leverage this data that is available vast basis to be able to leverage them and build the machine learning data science experiments. So what is data science? Data science is basically a data-driven application development. It's a new breed of discipline fueled primarily by the big data. And a lot of intelligence can be mined from this data. So in the past, we used to look backwards in terms of what happened based on the recordings of the data that we had. But nowadays, we look at what is happening right now, real time, and also what should happen and what will happen. It's a prescriptive and also predictive technologies that we have today. technology revolution that happened in the recent past, like distributed compute, like Hadoop and Spark, and NoSQL. NoSQL is not only SQL. SQL is structured query language that primarily used for relational database management systems and how you can query and work with the data. But NoSQL is like you can store any type of data. It's not just a structured, like probably you can use the tweets from the Twitter, the social media feed, the images, the documents, and the JSON API content. So anything goes when it comes to a NoSQL data systems. It involves multiple disciplines, computer science, of course. So we will be learning computer languages to be able to build data science experiments. And also the foundational knowledge of statistics helps a lot, because most of this, the roots of this machine learning algorithms are from probability and statistics. There is a quote from one of the famous person in Walmart Labs, Anand, is that more data usually beats better algorithms. So you will see why it is and how having more and more data really helps even having a better algorithms. So it's a new hot thing, and that's the idea behind all this course. In the past, the data scientists were not really, most attractive, most reached out person. Now, data scientist is a very fancy word. There are a lot of hype around that in the beginning of this last decade. And we passed that hype, and now we see some real benefit, real proof that we have seen in the industry today. So who's a data scientist? A data scientist is a business analyst working in Silicon Valley. So that's the interesting comment in sometime back in Twitter. Data scientists must have a firm grasp of computer science, algorithms, and data structure, of course. Multiple languages, or Python and Java are more famous. And of course, Python is much more famous than any other language in this field. There are a ton of tool sets and libraries available. The big data tools to manage petabytes and exabytes of data today, which are available all around us using systems like distributed systems like Hadoop and Spark. And on top of that, the data scientists must be able to use machine learning algorithms to come up with a prediction or a prescription. So they must have a solid understanding of statistics and probabilities and modeling and charts. Most importantly, they should have the domain knowledge. I think when you are working with the data, having the understanding of the data, the story behind the data, where it came from, where it is going, and what kind of transformation happened, with the background of whether it is a banking sector or an insurance company or a healthcare, or automobile or any domain you take. So having that understanding really helps to build better feature engineering and better model and better performance that you can gain from these experiments. So what's the difference between data scientist versus a typical computer scientist we used to have for a very long time? The differences are, from a computer scientist background, they pretty much built product-driven development, but data scientists are data-driven development. So basically, you start with a problem, business problem, and you see what kind of solutions exist in terms of the hypothesis that you come up with, and you go collect data and you do lots and lots of experiments, and either you prove the hypothesis is correct or not, and you iteratively do that until you come back with the final solution or a recommendation. So basically the data scientist revolves around data-driven development. Computer scientists, they usually didn't care much about the data. Data scientists are all about data. And computer scientists can work with the limited domain experience, but in the case of data science, we would need deep domain expertise for all the good reasons that we just talked about. And from the similarity standpoint, they both should know computer science very well. So the basics foundational concepts like data structures and multiple languages and how do you program with that is all essential for both the roles. Now we will look at the difference between a data scientist and business analyst. The business analyst is pretty much, they work with the high level tools like business intelligence tool like Excel, Power BI, and Tableau. Their primary focus is descriptive analytics. As we talked about it, like they look at what happened yesterday, what happened last week, what happened last quarter, what happened last month and year. But data scientists, pretty much they look for future recommendation, prescriptive, and prediction. The business analyst, they look at the reports in any of the tools that mentioned above, but data scientists look for insights. They look for patterns. They look for behavioral things. The business analyst focuses primarily on known unknowns, but data scientists like unknown unknowns. From the similarities standpoint, I think the domain knowledge comes back here as well. So they both should have a deep domain knowledge, and they both should be able to create good visualization to narrate the story to your management or your business stakeholders. The third differentiation between data scientists and statisticians, so I think there are a lot of misconceptions there as well. The statisticians, they're not much of a software engineering background, so they basically create statistical model between the population and the sample, and then be able to infer about the population with the samples that they have. But data scientists, they look at the data and the development work that revolves around the data. From the tools, statisticians use MATLAB and R and SAS Studio and languages like that. But from a data scientist, they create new tools and new modules and new programs using languages like Python and R. They use the sample data as we talked about from the statistician standpoint, but for the data scientists, they use the data to analyze with the big data technologies. Again, from the similarities standpoint, having strong knowledge of statistical modeling and probability really helps from both the role standpoint.